the psychological culture of the peoples of Ukraine is, I just find it amazing. Lviv was an amazing city, a generous, happy, vibrant city. It's right on the border of Poland, but the culture of the girls that have been donors for these last 5 years is a wonderful culture. They are, and what we want for our recipient parents is that we want to know our kids can one day, if our kids want to, that they can meet the donor and find out where they came from, where they got their good looks, where they got their blonde hair, where they got whatever. We want our kids to have that opportunity. The kids may not want to do it, and that's fine, but we want our kids to be able to do that. And all of the donors that I've dealt with in all of these years have all got children. They all are mothers. They all talk about valuing motherhood, and they all are mad keen to meet in 18 or however many years it is, depending on where you do the procedures. That is not the case in my interpretation that will happen as readily, say, with US and possibly even Malaysia. But if we're thinking of Ukraine, we're probably not thinking of Chinese, Malaysian donors. We may be, but the US donors are generally a little bit uncertain about whether they want to meet in 18 years' time. And they generally don't have kids. It is a completely different feel, all right? What you're getting with the Ukraine girls, I sound like I'm selling it, but I'm not. What you're getting with the Ukraine girls is a sincere, generous, just a nice donor. They are just nice people. So, and why should we go there? I tell people, and there's a couple of clinics in Sydney. There's one clinic in Sydney that uses them, and I say you just need to go there. They're cheaper than the US, and they're going to meet you in 18 years. They're going to meet your child. So that's that. I'm happy to be interrogated about why I think that.
Can you tell us a bit about what the conditions are for you traveling into Lviv and Kiev? What was that like in terms of ease of travel?
So I've had the one interpreter who's also part of the admin team of Central IVF, and I've always said, wouldn't it be nice to come to Ukraine? And I was traveling to Europe independent of that. I was in Germany for a while, and it's not far away. So there are for Australians there are I think it's 90 days. It's like a lot of places. There's no visa requirements to go in. Because of the war at the moment, I was told on the Ukraine website that you need war insurance, which was a couple of dollars a day, which I took out, but it was never checked. But it was a good idea because it does bring you back if you have a problem. But I was saying this to Sam earlier. The interesting thing is the train going into, so it was by train. There's no. I know Zelensky flies in and out as he should, but there's no other air traffic. You go in by train. Probably you can go by car, but you go in by train. And you simply go to the Polish side. There's a town on the Polish side. You buy a ticket, you go through immigration, and you hop on the train. It is as simple as that. And I'm talking about Australians now. I don't know the visa for others. You simply get a seat on the train, and the train is full going in. There's not this refugee thing happening. It's full coming out. When I came out, it's full going in. There is movement. Absolutely not many tourists. Absolutely, you are checked over by military who are on the train. It's a wartime. But once you clear them, and they did check my bags, and because they thought it was strange, I think, that me going in, but no restrictions going in. You go through border control, which was the Polish border control. Going in was no issue. And for me, the first stop was Lviv, which is the town not far inland. And it is an amazing town. It is amazing, vibrant, coffee shops everywhere, shops decorated everywhere. I've only just started unpacking, and there's fancy chocolate shops and cafes everywhere, and people just living their life.
Yeah, interesting. Ian, the questions come in from the audience
in a wartime.
about clarifying about donors. A lot of people said that they thought donors had to be anonymous in Ukraine. Are you saying Ukraine also has ID release donors, do they?
No. Well, all of the donors that I have seen, and this is 400 over 5 years, are all exactly the same as we would do here or do with America. We take their eggs, we have our babies, a live birth is recorded against the donor. It is kept in the register, whichever state you're in, but it's kept in a register. And when your child is ready to contact them, your child makes the contact. And again, this is the same for America. You hope that the donor says yes. And my view is that half of the US donors will say no because it's America. And my view is that 99% of the Ukraine donors will say yes because they are invested in this. They want babies to be born. And that does have to do with the war now. They've always wanted that, but they want it more now. So that's the system. The system is the same as we have for every other country, is that it's anonymous until your child reaches that age.
Yeah. And just to clarify, what's happening here?
Sorry, I'm ranting a bit.
They're freezing eggs
in
Ukraine, and then the eggs are being shipped overseas. That's how it is.
So I can only speak. I know you've got other people who you're talking to, and I can only speak for Central, and they used to be Cyprus, and then they went just Ukraine. They do collections. They freeze depending on what you want, what the numbers you want, and when they've got a guarantee, an embryo guarantee. They are then hand couriered out here. They wait until there's a few people in a batch, recipient families in a batch, and then they come out with a cryo. And it's a good, donor eggs is a good. Yeah, and I know we're talking about surrogacy, but for mainly women in their 40s who I'm seeing, 80% are getting a baby from that batch of eggs.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, if you could stay on the line for questions that are coming in on the Q&A tab, that would be great, because I'm sure people are going to ask you a few questions about that. Yep. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ian. That's terrific. We're now going to turn, while Ian answers some questions, turn to Anastasia from Ava Fertility. So Anastasia, I've known for many years. She's been professional. She's worked for some of the big IVF clinics in Ukraine, Biotech.com, Repromed, Manor. She's now got her own agency, Ave, and she's specializes really in the surrogacy space. She's living in Kiev, and she's been amazingly helpful with a lot of intending parents over recent years. She works with Lydia Komenko, who some of you know at the company, who's also helped a number of Australians. So Anastasia, welcome. I know you're going to talk to us about the current situation in Ukraine. So please take over and tell us about it.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm very glad to have a possibility to share the information I have and to actually to show how things really works. I'm sharing my presentation with you now. So can you see this?
Yep, that's great.
Great. Okay, so let me please introduce myself. I'm Anastasia Alexandrova, and I am co-owner of our fertility agency. Aside me is my colleague, my close friend, Lydia Komenko. We have been 11 years in surrogacy together. We help over 700 happy parents, and we were speakers on different events of different levels, including SAM's events and open days in different countries. And we have our own complex journeys. Lydia will share with you some of hers. Do you have anything to add, Lydia?
Yes. I want. First, hello. First of all, I want to show that I exist and tell how priceless I am for this company. So I'm Lydia, and I have privilege to be senior coordinator in our fertility. I'm your primary point of contact and support from the moment you sign the contract with our fertility. I'm the one you meet if you come in Ukraine to donate your semen or, for example, for ovarian stimulation. I'm the one who shares with you all challenges and triumphs of this journey. I'm the one who stays on your side all the time and protects your rights and protects your interest as well as your babies. I'm the one who helps you to change the first diaper of your baby and the one who helps you to hold your baby for the first time. I'm the one who helps you with baby's registration. And even when your journey ends, I'm looking forward to see the photos of your growing baby. So here we are, and let's go.
Let's start. So, how the situation in Ukraine currently looks. Unlike what you probably see in the news, telling that Ukraine is a country in a wartime, etc., etc., according to International Organization of Migrations, people are coming home. So more than 4.5 million, for almost 4.5 million people returned home. And as you can see, Ukraine is actually a huge country, and the military action, the regions that are in immediate military actions are only 4 districts and Crimea. And there are other districts where it is comparatively safe, and they are not in immediate war action. So we live here, we have our normal life. If you follow the rules, so then it means you will be safe. Why surrogates and agencies returned to Ukraine? After the war started, Georgia was the only practically legally solution as an alternative. And we have intended parents that took from our clinics, they took the embryos, they shipped them to Georgia. And what happened? Georgia very quickly exhausted itself. Population of Georgia is 3.7 million. Ukraine's population, I've taken the figure from 2024, after war has started, is still 33 million. So we have IPs whose embryos are still waiting in Georgian clinics. Currently, the time to be matched, even using the surrogates from Kazakhstan or Armenia, is still 7-8 months. This is close to a matching time in the US. While in Ukraine, over here, we can match you within 1-2 months. Our surrogates, they came back home with their families. They do not plan to leave. And they contact us. Moreover, intended parents started contacting us from summer 2022. And it was a moment that even we were not yet ready to be contacted by incoming inquiries. However, people believe in Ukraine. People believe that they will be safe here. And about what factors make them trust in Ukraine, make them come here. Lydia will share this information because she was on the forefront. She was with couples during the war, like every day.
And I had my journey as well. So I have to explain that this presentation was prepared by Anastasia, and she prepared some slides for me as well. So when I saw these words, I was very surprised because these words are mine. I was ready to be cut alive just to have a baby because I couldn't. And I know that you understand all the disappointments, all the grieving, all the personal tragedy of the woman who cannot have a baby. I tried everything. I tried unprofessional doctors, doubtful medications, doubtful procedures, and I failed. And 11 years ago, I applied for the job in one clinic, and Anastasia interviewed me. I got the job, and in a few months, I told her about my tragedy, and she told that there was not a problem. We can find solution, and you will have a baby. So I guess the problem was that I didn't have the right person near me, close to me, that can give me right, correct advice and show the way. So I'm a happy mom now, and I'm here to tell you that I can show you this way. I can help you. I can share with you this journey. And just one thing to add, that in this world or in other worlds, there is nothing that can frighten or scary the people who want to be parents. So why are people coming back in Ukraine to proceed with surrogacy? Some IPs, intended parents, know us already, and they come back for the siblings. The question is not only in trust, but in friendship as well, as they know that we will do everything for them and their baby, and that we are reliable and we can guarantee the safety of them in Ukraine. Some IPs from closer countries are not afraid at all, especially Serbia, Kosovo, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, etc. And because other countries failed them. Anastasia told you before about Georgia, comparing Ukraine and Georgia, and I can tell you that when the war started, I was in contact with many IPs, intended parents, and I also have my close friend in Georgia, and she has her own agency. So I brought my intended parents in Georgia. In 1 year, they came back in Ukraine to me because they failed and they didn't have time, half of a year or year to wait for the next attempt. So the last, but not the least, reason why people are coming here in Ukraine is me and Anastasia, because we are reliable and we can. So I will ask Anastasia to go on with her speech, as she will talk about money, and she loves joking about money.
Yeah, it's not like joking. However, anyway, one of the reasons why people come to Ukraine is still the price. Because, like, let's see, in our optimal surrogacy program costs 65,900, and we are talking about the program that includes unlimited number of attempts, egg donation till the baby is born, birth, legal side, everything, even housing for the final stay. Around the same program in Argentina will cost you 68,900, in Mexico 99,900, in US 230,000. So, and these figures are not taken out of thin air. These are the prices for the programs we carry out, because we had to react on the war situation. We had to look for partnerships, for new destinations, for the programs to go on. Our Ukrainian surrogates, they feel very confident. Just imagine how confident should a woman feel to have her own family in Ukraine and to be ready to carry out a pregnancy for someone else. This means that she trusts the government, she trusts the military forces, she trusts the companies she works with, she trusts the intended parents that will come and pick up their babies. Unfortunately, not everything is that sunny because we do not accept surrogates from the zones of military actions. First of all, we consider that it's the exploitation of their vulnerability. The second one, we are not recommended by our psychologists because they are traumatized. We do not know how pregnancy, especially surrogacy, will affect them. And another thing, there's still high risk of the regular dangerous trips to these zones. And because we understand that they still have families, parents, they still have friends there, and they might go there. And another thing, it was said today that logistics, but it's still available. It's still the way to move on, the way to start acting. And how we made this easier for you. We have 2 more clinics in the western part of Ukraine. Like I was sure Kyiv is located over here, and we have in Lviv, Uzhhorod. These are the departments of the clinic whose headquarters are in Kyiv. But you can come, you can donate sperm there. We can meet you for initial consultation if you wish to come. We also have a clinic in Cyprus we work with where you can come to create the embryos. And then we will ship those embryos to Ukraine, to our clinic where surrogacy will happen. The price of the clinic, the price of egg donation, the price of shipment is already included. However, this is the program, ask us for the details. It's not the unlimited attempts program, but this option also exists. It may be the way out for intended parents who do not want to stay, let's say, for self-stimulation cycle all the time in Kyiv. So you may undergo self-stimulation cycle in Cyprus, and we will use it. It's not something special company who do via shipping. And also use surrogacy in Ukraine because you either do not want to get married officially, because we can cater only heterosexual married couples in Ukraine. However, we have inquiries about intended parents wanting to use donor eggs from Ukrainian egg donors. We can create embryos in Ukraine, but we can ship them to Argentina for surrogacy or to Mexico for surrogacy. We have our friends, our partners there as well. How we changed our approach to our surrogates. Safety is the key during this time. Not for a single day we forget about where we stay. Before, the surrogates were staying a few ladies. They shared 3-bedroom apartment for her kids. Now we rent the whole apartment and she can stay with her family. She will have peace of mind that her family is with her, not with some other people, and she will be protected by us as well. So for our intended parents, when you come here to pick up your baby, we will rent the apartment for you, where you will be located near the shelter or metro station or underground parking. And we added the emergency bag to every apartment, where will be like portable mats, throw blanket, and we have accumulated backup funds in case everything goes very bad. like it was in the very beginning. Hopefully it will not. I'm 100% sure that it will not, but cash will solve a lot of issues that may arise. Maternity houses also learned their lesson during this time. So it's not like improvised, some kind of improvised delivery rooms in basements. They have full functioning medical logs. And some important things for you to know about Ukraine code red. So have cash, not much, but cash. Download the Air Alert app. It is very handy. Always have with you grab and go bag, because you will need to have water for you separately, water for the baby, food for you, formula for the baby, diapers, wet wipes, dry tissues, first aid supplies, like some medications, painkillers in dosage for the baby as well. It's not like you are going to spend 2 days, 3 days, even like few hours. No, normally we are staying in Kyiv every day. Our kids go to school. My daughter just graduated from school. Yes, there are air alerts. They may last for an hour and a half. But as long as you are in a shelter, you will be fine. You might need extra clothing, because parking lot, it's not something very cozy, a very cozy place, and some specific items. Do not try to take everything. You need to be mobile. Another thing, do not leave the stroller on your way near your door. We know how you come from having a walk with your baby, you pick up the baby and you leave the stroller, because you go with your baby to feed, to take to bath, or for baby to sleep, and you forget about it. Take it away, out of your way. You need to be fast. You need to be mobile. Do not use elevator, never, when after the air alarm. It's dangerous. And do not copy Ukrainians. Ukrainians have been living in all the same more than 2 years now. Ukrainians tend to ignore air alarms. Ukrainians tend to stay in the restaurants, in cafes, in shopping malls. Please leave. Please leave. We want you to be safe. And do not panic. Our military guys, our air defense will knock them down. You will be safe. So if you ask, should you come to Ukraine for surrogacy program? My answer is definitely yes. How we can make this easier for you? Avoid the first visit, ship the sperm if we are talking about surrogacy using donor eggs. And this reminds me, I would like to add about donor eggs. Clinics may not disclose their identity of the egg donor. However, we as an agency, we can have private arrangement with egg donors. We are allowed to disclose donors' agencies if the donor is okay with this. Most of the girls are totally okay with this. They see no problem in disclosing their identity, in meeting with you like in Zoom. It's okay. Also, come to one of our Western clinics for initial consultation, use our hybrid programs, and come fully prepared for the final visit. Because mistakes with the documents, when you come for the final stay, when you will get the passport for the baby or visa for your baby, even one mistake in the marriage certificate, that the name in the marriage certificate do not correspond to the name in the passport, it will make you stay longer, because normally how it happens, the husband, father comes back to correct the mistakes, mom stays here with the baby. So we will guide you through this. We have Lydia for this. She will guide you through this. And of course, we will look through your papers for this. But please do not ignore the recommendations we give. And on the positive note, even if you sign up today and we will make the program tomorrow, by the time when your baby is born, hopefully you will pick them up by plane, and war will be just a terrible past of our wonderful, beautiful, and strong country. And this is all I wanted to say. If you have questions, I'm eager to answer.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. That was really fascinating. It's great to hear from you both. I have had some cases where people have had unsuccessful journeys in Georgia and they've returned to Ukraine where they had their first child to do surrogacy there a second time. Look, I know that Anastasia and Lydia will stay on the line for questions that come in. Meanwhile, we're going to turn to our parent panel now. I'm going to hear from some of the parents who have had journeys in Ukraine recently. So I'm going to bring in Peter and Ben and Nancy into the call to hear about their journeys. I'll just get you guys to start your video. There, Ben's coming in. That's great. Hello, Ben. Hi, Nancy. Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you, Sam. How are you?
Great. You're in Adelaide, aren't you?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Okay. Okay. Let me just find Peter in as well. Where is he here? Okay. So we might start with you guys while Peter's coming in. There's Peter. Hello, Peter. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Sam. How are you? Thank you.
Good. What city are you in?
Melbourne as well.
Okay, great. So we might start with Ben and Nancy because they were sort of the earlier journey. Can you guys first tell us what brought you to surrogacy in the first place? Were you sort of years of IVF fails, Ben? Nancy, what was it?
Yeah, well, look, we were doing IVF for about 3 years, and we had multiple failed transfers. We had the embryos, but they just wouldn't stick. So yeah, we made the decision to go to surrogacy, international surrogacy.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And what made you choose Ukraine?
we chose Ukraine because, look, we did a bit of research, and the legalities sort of favor the intended parent, the biological parent, and it's quite popular for surrogacy. So we decided Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah. And did you ship embryos there, or did you make them over there?
Yeah, we did. Through you guys, we shipped 8 embryos, I believe it was, over there in November of 2021. So about 3 or 4 months before the war started.
Yep. Okay. And then when did the transfer happen?
So I'm going to say
Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Christmas Eve actually.
Wow.
So that quick, yeah. So yeah, it happened so quickly. So that the embryos arrived in November. The first transfer was December 24, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, December 24th. Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, once the war broke out, you were then what? Your surrogate was 2 months pregnant, or?
Yeah, so when the war broke out, our surrogate was 12 weeks pregnant, and she was due to do her 12-week scan, and that got canned because yeah, the war broke out, and so, it was a bit of chaos and whatever
Yeah, sure.
else. So
Did you lose contact with your surrogate for a while?
we didn't have direct contact with our surrogate. We had direct contact with our program coordinator, Yarina.
Yep.
And that our correspondence never ended. Like, she was fantastic from start to finish.
Right. And where was your surrogate living at the time? What part of Ukraine?
She was in Vinnytsia, which is like, it's sort of, I guess, west-ish, sort of southwest, sort of near Moldova.
Yep,
so
yep.
she was relatively safe.
Yeah, okay. And right, and then what about the birth? Where was the birth in Kiev?
Yeah, the birth was in Kiev. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So tell us about coming to Kiev for the birth. How hard was that?
We based ourselves in Warsaw. And when our surrogate was about 39 weeks, we made our way over from Warsaw so we hired a driver through you actually, Sam. So we hired a driver, and he picked us up from Warsaw. We drove from Warsaw across the border the border was about an hour wait.
Yep.
And then we got to Lviv. We stayed in Lviv for one night, and then the next day another driver picked us up and drove us to Kiev.
Right. And did you feel pretty scared at the time? How were you? Do you remember?
I tell you what, when we got to when we crossed the border, we were a little bit scared. I guess you know, from what we've seen on the news and that sort of stuff, we sort of half expected, you know, to see you know, a bit of damage or something, but it wasn't like that at all. No, it was pretty business as usual sort of setup, you know.
Yeah, right. And so it was a road trip you had to Kiev.
Yeah, it was a road trip. Yeah, car.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And so were you there for the birth or just after the birth?
We were there. So our son came. So she at 41 weeks. So we were there for about 2 weeks before the birth. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay, Peter, we might come to you now. We'll come back to these guys in a minute. Tell us, you had years of attempting to have kids before you went to surrogacy, did you?
Yeah, well, we're very late comers in this program. We had about a dozen or so years of IVF in Australia, a lot of failures, and
Wow.
and then gave it up. And then my wife developed breast cancer and multiple other cancers
Yeah.
after we adopted a child, and then just came back into the journey several years ago, and decided we chose Ukraine because it was the only place we could find that would accept us because we're both over 60.
Right.
So yeah, 60 is the age limit just about everywhere in the world for surrogacy.
Right.
Ukraine was the only place.
Yeah, wow.
And
you keep going.
And then we were going to go through that program, and the war broke out, so I couldn't convince my wife to proceed with it. So we shelved it for a while. And then, you know, the agency we were with were Lotus Ukraine, and they proposed two options, which was Georgia was one, which they didn't recommend because, as the two ladies that spoke quite well earlier said, there was huge delays. There was issues of whether the citizenship would be produced, etc. I happen to be a legal practitioner and a notary, so I know all the difficulties here. So a bit of self-promotion. If anyone needs any help, I'm happy to offer it for them, because you always need a notary. So
That's
anyway, so and then they said they relocated their program to Uzhhorod, which was right on the border of Slovakia, about 5 kilometers from the border and 40 kilometers from the Hungarian border. So my wife said, yeah, okay. We managed to convince her jointly to join the program. And then we sent all our material over, and our embryos were produced over there.
So you shipped sperm over, did you?
Yeah, we shipped everything over. And for the first time in my life, I fertilized eggs.
Right.
At the age of 66.
Yeah, wow.
So that's what I call a miracle. So
yeah, amazing. And did you?
We fertilized 6 eggs, and a month later, the boy was put into. There was only one boy out of those, and we transferred one egg into our surrogate, and she got pregnant immediately in July last year.
Right, same as Ben and Nancy, first transfer.
Yeah, first transfer.
Yeah, wow.
So first successful transfer, successful embryo for us, first successful transfer, of course, and first pregnancy.
Yeah. And did you have contact with your surrogate during the pregnancy?
Yeah, we're of Greek. Our parents are of Greek origin, so we decided to go to Greece first and have a bit of a break. Our eldest daughter, who's an adult now, came with us. And so we stayed there, and then we got a phone call. We were planning to get there on about the 20th of March, and they rang us on the 11th and said, you better get here. She's going to give birth. We wanted to be there for the birth, so the only way we could get there quickly from Greece was to fly into Vienna, and then they sent a car over to pick us up in Vienna to drive all the way to Uzhhorod. and that was a 10.5 to 11-hour journey. It was quite scary actually because it was raining, and it was the middle of the night, but we got there safely, and we arrived in Uzarud in the middle of the night, and then we met the surrogate the next day. She didn't give birth the next day. She gave birth a week later. We met the surrogate. They offered us to meet her, and we agreed. And we had coffee with her. We had relocated her from a village outside Kiev to Uzarud. So they wanted us to go to Kiev for the birth, and we said no. We want to stay in Uzarud. And so they said, well, we'd have to relocate her and her family and her kids to Uzarud, and we agreed with that and paid for all that. So she relocated for 4 months before the birth, and she was staying within 500 meters of us. So
right. And what's Uzarud like as a city?
Uzarud is a beautiful city. If anyone's look, we only travelled from Uzarud when we went to Kiev to do the birth certificate, and Kiev was a lovely city, but it was, I have to say, the look on people's faces was completely different to the look on people's faces in Uzarud. Uzarud could be Sydney or Gold Coast. I call it the baby capital of the world. There's babies absolutely everywhere in Uzarud. So the rich Ukrainians send their families and wives over to Uzarud to have babies. There's a construction boom going on there. The rich are building apartments by the droves. There's more construction going on there than in Sydney or Gold Coast, and it's a lovely city. We were there in the middle of cherry blossom season. I'm probably should be a tourist operator. They planted all these sakura blossom trees from Japan 100 years ago, so you think you're in Tokyo.
Right, wow.
There was cherry blossom all over the city. Magnificent city. So
that's great to hear. And Ben, Nancy, what was Kiev like for you guys? Tell us about that.
Kiev was it was absolutely amazing, to be honest.
Breathtaking.
Yeah, it was breathtaking. But yeah, to be honest, it was while we were there, it was business as usual. Nothing was closed. The only thing was there was a curfew. There was a curfew from, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night till whatever, 6 o'clock in the morning. Huge military presence, but we felt pretty safe, you know. In our apartment, we had a bomb shelter. We actually didn't have to go there once. There was air sirens, but you know, we felt relatively safe. We loved it in Kiev. We can't wait to go back, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think at the time you were there, you didn't have to come back out of Ukraine to get the passport, did you? The government was actually processing the passports.
Yeah, we had DFAT assisting us the whole time from the moment we went in until we came out. So they issued an emergency passport for baby Louis, and there was no issues at the border because our program coordinator who just spoke, Lydia, she assisted us in getting everything ready. So there was really no issue at the border, and we crossed over with the passport into Poland.
Yeah, great. But for you, Peter, you would have had to go to Poland to get the passport, I think, didn't you?
So, you know, for the intending parents there, I counsel them to get advice. It's a complicated process.
Yeah.
Basically, 3-step process. So if you have a successful birth and you're over there, and I sincerely hope everyone listening here has a successful birth and in the future, I think the technology in Ukraine on surrogacy is absolutely amazing. I think they'll do their best. If you don't get a successful birth in Ukraine, I don't think you'll get it anywhere else in the world. I have to say they're really good. So the process is that you've got to have your documentation obviously ready here. You've got to upload it on Home Affairs it's called an IMI account. There's a lot of documents to upload. You've got to do that. Look, the surrogacy program people guide you through all this. They said, I'm sure the two young ladies that spoke earlier would do the same. Lotus did that with us. They sent us a detailed analysis of what we needed. So you upload those, and that's meant to give you the citizenship. So the first step is obviously to get the birth certificate.
Yeah.
So you need your DNA material, and you need to travel to Kiev and get your birth certificate. That takes a week or two after birth. Once you get the birth certificate, you apply for your citizenship by descent, and you should have already had that in place. Because it's a war zone, Home Affairs does action it pretty quickly and generally do it. I don't know how the guys earlier said, but it usually happens within a week, at the worst 2 weeks. Ours was done in 4 days, which is quite amazing. So, you know, we say we have a lot of red tape in Australia, but I think the Australian government does pull all stops to help people that are in Ukraine. So then obviously you've got to travel, because there's no embassy in Ukraine anymore. You've got to travel to Warsaw. So I had to travel to Warsaw on my own, get interviewed and get the passport returned with the emergency passport, and then we travelled out. So it's a 3-step process.
Yeah, so was that via a car you went to Warsaw?
Yeah, the Lotus arranged for a car to pick us up. So it's a 10-hour journey from to Warsaw. So it's quite tiring for me. So you travel for 10 hours, you get interviewed, you go back to the embassy in Warsaw, you wait a couple of hours, and then you travel back. So the whole journey takes about 26, 27 hours, but you do that on your own because the baby's not allowed out of Ukraine.
Right.
Doesn't have a passport.
Yeah,
so it might have citizenship, doesn't have a
for those of you who
passport.
don't understand, babies in Ukraine who are born to surrogacy don't get a Ukraine travel document. You have to wait till you get the foreign travel document. Okay, that's really interesting to hear about. What would, as the last thing, your key bit of advice be to people coming after you, Peter?
I think just follow your agency's advice. They're best. You know, the ladies that spoke earlier obviously have had some successful outcomes. You know, hundreds of them. The agency we're with have had a great deal as well. They know what they're doing. Follow their advice. Get some advice over here. You need a notary, obviously, first up. The first thing you need to do is to appoint the people over there, your agencies, as attorneys, to sign all the documents over there, because they have to sign a surrogacy agreement with the surrogate. Yep. So carefully choose your surrogate. They're not all the same. They're fantastic girls. The one we met was a lovely girl. She had her own children. Make sure she's had some successful surrogacies beforehand, because that's key. Make sure she's young. And you follow the advice and you'll be okay. Make sure your documentation's right here. You know, they get a bit confused in Ukraine over our marriage certificates here, because generally our marriage certificates have the wife's maiden name.
Yep.
She signs in her maiden name. Whereas in Ukraine, this is the key issue over there, right? Especially with Greek couples, because we're definitely made in our marriage certificates. We sign at the church. So when we get married, the actual marriage certificate that gets lodged with the registry is the certificate from the church, not the registry certificate. So that had the maiden name, and I wouldn't accept it, because you've got to prove that you're both married. They wanted us to change our name. So you can't change your name because you've been known as the married name for 40 years. So get that right.
Yeah.
Make sure your marriage certificate is right, because as you pointed out earlier, one error, and you can turn over there and everything's wrong. But the agency will guide you through that. They won't wait for you to turn up for there to be an error. They'll tell you months beforehand to fix something.
Yeah.
So that's where the notary comes key over in Australia. But you start, if you've got a successful situation and you decide to go on the program, do your power of attorney. They're trustworthy over there in Ukraine. They're not going to do anything else. All you're doing is authorising them to sign a surrogacy agreement and to deal with the authorities. That's all you're doing. You're not authorising them to take money out of your account or anything like that.
That's good. That's good advice. Any other advice, Ben, from you about the people?
Any advice?
Yeah.
Yeah, just network. Try everything Peter said, definitely, and just try to network with people who going through the same process you're going through in Ukraine, or people who have, gone through it, like Nancy and I.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Have you still got embryos over there?
Yeah, we do. We have 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
You might create a football team, guys.
Yeah.
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 Great. I mean, would you ever go again, do you think?
Would love to go back to Ukraine. Yeah.
We'd love to go back to Ukraine. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
possibly, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. It's been great to hear from you. Really appreciate it.
Thank
No,
you.
thank you
Stay
so
on the fence
much.
with a few questions. There might be a few questions coming in on the Q&A tab.
Okay.
All right.
No.
For our last little talk, we're going to hear from one of Ukraine's leading surrogacy attorneys, Olga Danchenko, who I've known for many years, who's going to talk to us a bit about the laws in Ukraine and what she thinks the future is going to hold for surrogacy in the country. Olga, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Sam. Can you hear me well?
Yes, that's
All
great.
okay?
That's really good. Yeah.
So I'm trying to upload my presentation. Just a second.
Yep, that's great.
Uploaded.
Wonderful.
Then we start. So Sam asked me to talk about legal aspects of surrogacy in Ukraine and what does the future hold. So the red line of our conversation today is Ukraine is one of very favorable legal destinations for surrogacy treatment in the whole world. However, pandemic and after that the war changed a little bit, of course, influenced the situation. And if we look at travel advice of different diplomatic missions. Here, I just have an example of the British Embassy. All is red, and this might be very scary for intended parents. So we see, I absolutely agree with Anastasia that Ukraine is very big. And not the whole territory is influenced by military actions. And we see here, for example, a yellow zone, which is absolutely acceptable and absolutely safe, and it can be a very good option for surrogates and for intended parents because it is close to the border and logistics is even easier here. So all is not so bad as we see from our today's event, and we are very happy and proud that the intended parents trust and believe in Ukraine and are still coming, and we have a lot of work with legal aspects of surrogacy. And how did the process change? So what I can say as a lawyer, so we can meet different new clauses in surrogacy agreements concerning safety situation. For example, the surrogate is obliged to change her place of residence if safety situation worsens, and she should be in very good contact to her coordinators and so on. And I noticed also very quick change of embassies rules. For example, at the outbreak of the war, there were a lot of couples who were stuck in Ukraine, and nobody was actually waiting for war outbreak, and by this reason the embassies were much more friendly to intended parents, so to say, and the rules were very easy. So they issued emergency travel documents very quickly with a very minimal number of documents. But then when the new couples started to come back to Ukraine, for example, to make a sibling journey, we noticed that the embassy's rules are changing, and they are becoming more and more strict, and they are changing. So we need to monitor and to be in close contact to the colleagues who had the last experience with some or another embassy, and we need to follow what is actually needed, because the third principle is urgency of exit process. Of course, nobody, despite of the situation that is more or less stable in Kiev and in Western Ukraine. Everybody wants to exit Ukraine as soon as possible. It's absolutely human. And so we are trying to, and we are pressed by the intended parents to do everything as quickly as possible and to provide all updates and all information and to structure our work in the way to do the exit process as smooth and expedient as it has never been. So we were working on the edge of our abilities to provide all services as quickly as possible. And we also noted that the document processing is mostly in electronic form. So we work with a big number of PDF files, as Peter said, on IP's panel. We need to provide the intended parents with a lot of PDF files, and they just upload them and can get travel documents. And even being lawyers and agency coordinators and clinics, we try to provide psychological support to all parties, because the situation is not absolutely standard. Everybody is a little bit nervous. And so we try to calm them down and to show that we are here, we are doing all possible, and everything will be just fine. And asking the question, has the legal situation changed? No. So the most important the clue to surrogacy in Ukraine in the legal field is the Article 123 of the Family Code of Ukraine. It was not changed. So if the embryo conceived by the spouses using assisted reproductive technology is transferred into the body of another woman, the spouses, so the IPs, shall be the only legal parents of the child. So this crucial clause remains in force. And so we can proceed with surrogacy in Ukraine. Only one nuance has changed a little bit, and it is also rather favorable for coming parents: the rules for vital statistics registration. So under martial law, in war, birth registration can be carried out by any vital statistics office on the territory of Ukraine by request of the applicant, so of the intended parents. It means that previously, if the baby was born in one district of Kiev city, for example, birth should have been registered with only one specific registry office bound to this Kiev district. And now, even if baby is born in one city, it can be absolutely easily registered in another city. And about border crossing, as a lawyer, I'm frequently asked if it would be okay that the baby crosses the newborn, baby born via surrogacy. Can the baby cross the border only with birth certificate, Ukrainian birth certificate? It was the case also at the beginning of the war, but now situation has changed, because this change was done only in the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine in rules for crossing the state border by citizens of Ukraine. So Ukrainian children can really enter and exit Ukraine either with passport or with birth certificate or other identifying document. But as we know from family code, the parents of the baby born by surrogacy to foreigners is not considered to be Ukrainian. So it's a foreign baby, and we have to apply another legislation. So we have to use the law of Ukraine on the legal status of foreigners and stateless persons. It tells that foreigners can enter and depart from Ukraine only upon submission of passport document. And one more legal document, the law on the border control. It also says that border control involves checking the presence of valid passport documents. And just to make situation as much clear as possible, last year I made an inquiry to the State Border Service of Ukraine, and they confirmed it's in Ukrainian, but for you to understand that it's rather official reply. So the answer is absolutely clear. The baby born on the territory of Ukraine by surrogate mother cannot exit from Ukraine accompanied by parents who are foreign citizens only on basis of birth certificate. So anyway, travel passport is needed. And as Peter noticed, even if there is no embassy of the country which the intended parents belong, whose citizenship they have, so they need to find a solution, and one of the IPs would need to travel to neighboring country to pick up passport, and then only with the passport the baby will be able to travel. However, in war, most embassies, I think 90%, they issue emergency travel documents, and the procedure for their obtaining is a little bit easier than obtaining just the standard passport in the paper form. And I will just make a few examples how the attitude of foreign jurisdictions changed in course of the war, and how they make their rules for obtaining for passport application procedure. So, for example, if we take a look at Ireland, they canceled their obligatory DNA requirement, which was absolutely the must before the war and before COVID. So now the intended parents just leave Ukraine and sign up undertaking that they are obliged to undergo this DNA testing upon coming back to Ireland. And the Irish embassy is actually very nice. They send the emergency travel document to any place of Ukraine via courier mail. For example, they are based in Kiev, but they can send the emergency travel document, for example, to Lviv by Nova Poshta. And they require apostille only on birth certificate. Previously, they required it for all documentation, and it made the process longer. USA, they also do not require DNA test, and however, they require a lot of other documentation. I will not citate it. You see it from this slide. So they need as much proofs as possible for origin of biological material. So it's also very good to prepare all in advance. Germany, they always require the surrogate mother to personally appear at the embassy with the intended father. It's not the case anymore. The surrogate signs her documentation, the intended father signs his documentation, even being in Germany before travel to Ukraine, and then he goes to the embassy with the baby alone. And one peculiarity, emergency travel document is issued indicating the surname of the surrogate. So not all intended parents actually like it, but it is the easiest way for Germany to issue emergency travel document because they do not recognize surrogacy. And the UK is one of the few countries which doesn't issue emergency travel documents anymore as they did at the beginning of the war. So HMPO office is engaged with issuing of physical passport, and this country takes little longer in comparison to others. And at the end, just a few words about the future and about draft legislation. So last year, our parliament was very active, and they had a lot of initiatives. You see all draft laws, but they were rejected a year ago, and now we do not have any actual draft legislation which could be analyzed. But I know there are several working groups now, and they are still working on the law of assisted reproductive technologies. And I have been practicing in this field for more than 10 years. It has always been the case. So each year, several draft laws are produced, but we do not know how the outcome will be. Just from the rumors and from the text which appear from time to time, we can see that surrogacy in Ukraine can be a little bit restricted, and even not little bit. So there are some ideas of our legislative bodies how they can change it. For example, to set up a regulatory body which will give permission to each separate couple on their case, like adoption procedure in Ukraine. There was also an idea to request an official letter from a diplomatic mission of the country of citizenship of the IPs to prove that at the end of the process, travel document can be obtained. it would be very complicated. We are trying to explain it to the politicians because surrogacy is not regulated in all countries of the world, and it's not the sphere of the embassy to provide such letter, but still such legislation initiatives are present. And unfortunately, there are some plans to ban surrogacy for citizens of the countries where surrogacy is prohibited, and even to totally ban surrogacy for everybody. So by this reason, we cannot foresee how situation will be. Just need to hope for best. But if some couples would like to start the procedure, better not to make long preparations. And the last slide, so we have worked out a lot of strategies to protect best interest of the children who are born in Ukraine via surrogacy method, and we already have big experience working in extreme circumstances like COVID or war and whatever. At the same time, we keep working. We are trying to make victory closer and believe that soon we'll have peace and children will be born in bloom in Ukraine under a peaceful sky. If you have some questions, here are my contact details. Sam has my details. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you so much, Olga. That was terrific. It was really interesting to hear about all those aspects, particularly about what might happen in the future in terms of legal changes and what's happening right now in terms of the changes for different countries, different nationalities. Look, everybody, we've run out of time today for much more, but look, I just want to thank everybody for attending. It's been great to have so many people in the webinar today. We'll make the recording available for people who missed certain aspects or couldn't get there. And if you're in Australia, you can come along to the national conference in a few weeks. We'll have a lot more information about both Ukraine and other countries around the world. In terms of surrogacy, this is a constantly changing landscape. It's important you're well informed. And please don't hesitate to come back to us with questions or to log on for our other free webinars throughout the year. It's been great to have you all here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olga. It's great.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Peter. That was
Thank you,
great.
Sam. Thank you,
Lydia.
Sam.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great to see you all.